have spent any time at all in modern spiritual circles or self-help circles, you know that the indicator people use for whether something is true or whether something is right for them is whether it resonates with them. When something resonates, it produces or is filled with a deep, full, reverberating sound. We could say that when this happens, the sound vibration is expanded or amplified. When a person says that something resonates with them, essentially what they're saying is that that thing is a match to their current experiences, current awareness, current perspective, or current conscious desires. Because of this, it causes an amplification of their own personal vibration, which includes their current experience, awareness, perspective, and desires, etc. And because of this, when something resonates, it holds meaning to the person. We could say that when something resonates with you, it's a deeply validating experience. This is why we experience it as a confirmation or a yes. It is also why, to the opposite, when something does not match our current experience, awareness, perspective, or desire, and therefore it doesn't resonate with us, we experience it as an invalidation, a contradiction to our sense of self and or reality, and therefore a no. I find it amusing that when people say that something resonates with them, what they're usually referring to is either a painful thing they have already accepted, or they're usually referring to a positive thing. When we encounter something that is a match to something within ourselves that we are wanting desperately to avoid because we associate it with pain, this will actually also cause us to resonate. It's just that the amplification that is caused is a painful one instead of a positive one. It will strike a negative chord with us instead of a positive one. That's actually still resonating. Just a trigger this time instead of something that's yes. So if you look at everything that I've just said, if you look at this definition of what it means to resonate, if you look at what's actually happening when somebody is resonating with something or against something, it's very easy to see that to resonate is a double-edged sword. For example, on the one hand, if something does resonate with you, it could indicate that something is in alignment with you, or your true purpose, is true, is a validation, is a match to your desires, or that something is compatible to you, or that you're understood, etc. But it can also mean that someone's reinforcing one of your shadows, enabling you, agreeing to what doesn't serve you, offering a solution that allows you to avoid what you want to avoid, solidifying your limited perspective, etc. On the one hand, when something does not resonate with you, it can indicate that you have encountered a mistruth, someone's being inauthentic. You're not understood, something's out of alignment, something is incompatible to you, it is not a match to your desires, etc. But it can also mean that you're being introduced to an experience that will alter your current perspective, an awareness that will break you free but that invalidates the limited awareness you currently hold. Your conscious mind is being confronted with something in your subconscious that you don't want to see. You're being offered something that will serve you immensely, but that is the opposite of avoidance. Someone is expressing something about themselves that you refuse to accept. Your pre-existing programming is being undone. You're being introduced to a truth that is inconsistent with your highly limited grasp of truth, etc. The problem with what resonates with you is that you're essentially saying it's a match to those perceptions that you already hold. It's a match to the vibration you're already in. That includes your conscious desires. Now, we all know that that implies agreement. If something resonates with you, it implies agreement. And we all know that disagreement or discord, which is the opposite of agreement, is not always a bad thing, is it? Because if we have a limited belief, it's not really a great thing when somebody agrees with it. Sometimes the very best thing for you is when something that won't resonate with you introduces itself to your frequency and therefore changes it. Discordance does not always imply that something is false or wrong. For example, as it applies to thoughts, when someone's thoughts are in consonance with our own thoughts on a subject, we agree with one another. We feel we're in sync, and so their thoughts resonate with us. So you can understand the limits of what resonates with me, I'm going to give you a very short list of examples, because if I gave you a long list, we could be here all day long. Item number 1. Let's imagine that there's a woman and she's hyper-controlling. Now let's say that this woman doesn't like willow trees, willow bushes, does not like them, doesn't like the energy. And in fact, even though this woman has chronic headaches, willow bark extract is something she's allergic to. Now this could be one of these scenarios where I have to tell you about willow. Willow as a consciousness and as a frequency is a master of the state of allowing. Now obviously somebody who's hyper-controlling has become that way because They've learned that that's the very best way to stay safe. So even the encountering of any energy within this universe that's in an allowing type of a state is going to cause her to encounter fear. Is she going to say that that thing resonates with her? No, even though allowing and those things that might teach her allowing are the very thing which she needs, she's going to say, Willow just doesn't resonate. 2, a man is in a relationship with a woman who's using him for money. She uses sex and affection to keep him committed to her and loves to spend time with him, so he will take her on fancy getaways. Everyone around him can see this. When they bring it to his attention, he says, no, that doesn't resonate with me because she's so affectionate, and trust me, she complains when I'm not around. 3, a woman is raised in a society that leads her to believe that the only way to be of value to society and the only way to stay a good person is if she lets go of her life and sacrifices her life for the sake of having these children. Let's say she always wanted to be a lawyer, but she puts that to the side because of this belief that society has filled her with. Now, the children grow up knowing that the woman doesn't really want to be a mother. Why? Because she constantly reminds them of how she gave up everything for them. She constantly demands gratitude for it. She constantly feels resentful, and the children pick that up from her. These children are going to turn around and tell her something along the lines of this. Mom, you never wanted to be a mother. But she's going to say, that does not resonate with me. I have given my whole life up to be a mother. 4, let's say a black person goes into a company to try to get a job from that company, and it doesn't happen. In fact, they give the job to somebody much less qualified. Now, the real reason they gave this job to somebody much less qualified because that person is a friend of the boss's. Should they have gotten the job? Probably not. However, we all know how it works. It's all about relationships. Now, let's say that this black person is hanging out with another friend of theirs and they say, well, you know why you didn't get the job? That company's full of crackers. Because this person has had experience in their life with racism, that is immediately going to resonate with them. It's going to resonate with them to the degree that they now accept that that is the meaning and the reason why they didn't get the job, when in fact, it isn't the case. 5, a person has grown up in a Christian community. They have a particularly hard time in life, and so they start praying. They hear a voice speaking back to them, offering them comfort. This voice is in fact their own voice. It's a coping part of themselves that's contradicting their negative thought with positive thought. When someone says, this is what's happening, they'll say, no, that just doesn't resonate with me. It was Jesus speaking to me. 6, this is my personal favorite, a person goes to a self-help seminar. Now, this person does not like the idea that they have to become aware of their childhood in order to become aware of their current patterns. They don't like the idea that they have to look at their childhood through the lens of what did my mom and dad do wrong. Why? Because they want to stay close to mom and dad, and they distrust their ability to do that if they see them in reality. Also, on top of that, there's nothing they can do about it anyway. In fact, that's what they're thinking, right? If I see what they did bad and I see why I have this pattern, I can't fix it anyways because the past is the past. So they get frustrated when they are encountering anybody whose perspective is you need to actually create resolve to these patterns and see them clearly so they don't repeat. So let's say they go to a self-help seminar and they sit down in front of somebody who's on stage, and this teacher says, don't look at your past. There's no reason to do it. Your past life is a past life. Leave it that way. In fact, any focus on it just reactivates the patterns. Just focus entirely on what you want right now. Make that the only thing that you lend your energy to. This person's going to say what? Oh my God, it resonates so much. You get the point. We could literally be here all day long assessing these scenarios where when somebody says it resonates with me, it is absolutely no indication of whether or not it is objectively true or right, or even right for someone. What you need to become the most aware of is that anything that's buried deep enough within your subconscious mind, anything you are in deep enough denial of, will not positively resonate with you. Either it will elicit no reaction, or it will trigger you, meaning it will resonate with something you are trying desperately to avoid. Let me say this in another way. If you are interested in awareness, you cannot have what resonates with you. be the indicator of whether or not something is true, or whether or not something is right, or even as a permanent fixture, rely upon what resonates as an absolute indication that something's right for you. By definition, your subconscious is what you don't know that you don't know. Your subconscious is full of things that you have rejected, denied, suppressed, and disowned. Therefore, it is more likely that anything that is in your subconscious mind will not resonate with you at all. To expand your awareness around some of this, you would benefit by watching 2 of my videos. The first is titled The Biggest Barrier to Awareness, and the second is titled Self-Concept, the Enemy of Awakening. Does this mean that you shouldn't pay attention when something resonates? Hell no. In fact, the exact opposite. When something resonates with you, it's a calling to pay intense amounts of attention. But specifically attention to why. Why is something resonating with you, whether that resonance is positive or, to the opposite, a trigger? You should also be open to any number of potential answers to that question of why. When something resonates or doesn't, that resonance or dissonance is always telling you something. Just remember that your interpretation of what it is telling you is potentially not on point. To commit to awareness, we have to be open to exploring all perspectives around anything. To genuinely step into a space of awareness, we have to treat every reaction within ourselves, this includes dissonance and resonance patterns, as an alarm bell, calling us into questioning, calling us into curiosity, calling us into a further exploration of awareness. And remember, the more aware you become, the more what resonates with you will change. Have a good week.